Hello, welcome to Galaxy of Fiction. I'm today's host, Andrew, and of course, Nick, also known in other realms as Monster Nick.
I've heard that been said before, Monster Nick. Yeah. Lovingly known as Monster Nick, I guess.
Lovingly known as Monster Nick. It is certainly not a commentary on his character or his temper. But we thought we'd gather today to talk about this little independent company based out of Anaheim, California. It's called Disney. I don't know, do you ever interact with them?
You said
Disney, yeah,
Disney.
little indie film house, doing a few things. Also getting into theme parks, and of course the joke being that Disney is enormous and owns all the things. Yeah, all the things. Well, you know, there's always a rumor that they might buy the MCU, which I don't think will ever happen, but the rumor exists. But Nick just recently went and visited Galaxy's Quest.
Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge.
I like Galaxy Quest too, though. Yeah. We'll do a show on that one someday.
Absolutely. You'll have to introduce me, and maybe I'll spend a week interacting with it. I actually saw Galaxy's Edge back in December. They had recently opened Galaxy's Edge. And so our experiences were pretty different. I was there pre-COVID, but the new ride, which is called The Rise of the Resistance, was so new, I wasn't able to get in. Nick, you were able to get in on Rise of the Resistance.
Post-COVID,
Yeah, post-COVID. So, first of all, let me ask this question. Visiting Disney in a COVID world, I'm curious about the crowds. I'm curious how your kids handled the masks. And then, generally, was there anything else where you're like, this is a little strange? Or did it feel... Did you have a good experience?
It was an interesting experience, to say the least. The mask thing is definitely there, and they're reminding you of that constantly. They're reminding you, even when you're trying to take a picture, even if it's a selfie, you want to pull down the mask and see your smiling face, right? Nope. We need you to take your pictures with the mask, and it's just like, take it real quick, and move on with life. So they're very much in tune with that, but very kind. I will say that. It was always a request. And
well, they're not known for being rude.
And obviously when you're, drinking a beverage, sitting down with your family, eating, they want you to do that with masks, obviously. So I tried to just kind of keep a beverage handy all the time. Oh, I was just taking a sip. That's why my mask is down. Right, exactly.
Well, I did read an article that if you were actively eating, you didn't need to wear a mask. So there was a lot of people walking around eating, and so to use it as a loophole, and they ended up closing that loophole. So the masks, that's a thing, and that's kind of everywhere across the country. Some places more stringent than most. Apparently, Disney is committed.
Right.
Did you notice anything else? How were the crowds? And then did you notice anything else?
The crowds, very low numbers. As far as we went to Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom especially, my kids could just jump on and off the rides or just stay on the rides because there's no one in line. And so that was great. Even in this Toy Story area of Hollywood Studios, they may jump back into line and wait a couple more minutes. So that was unheard of when you think of, waiting an hour or 2 hours or 3 or whatever for the Slinky Dog ride or whatever it might be. And it's like, okay, well, there's a third of my day, right there. And so what other 2 rides in this vast acres and acres of park do you want to ride? So you had to be kind of selective. With the crowd size now, you didn't have to be selective. It's kind of like, Kings Island just down the road from us, we might get the chance to ride a good majority of those rides, despite the crowd sizes before COVID. So it felt a lot more like my experience at Kings Island, unlike what I've heard with people at Disney that, I was there all day and only got to ride so many rides, but still a great experience. No parades, 0 parades.
Ah, that's a bummer. My kids really like the parades. So.
Yeah, 0 character meet and greets. That didn't mean the characters didn't come out to see you from above. A lot of, balconies and wavings and stormtroopers looking down at you, of course, pointing at you and, making kind of little fun jabs at you. We did get to see Rey come out in a kind of garage hangar sort of thing, working on her speeder. So she must work on that every single day. And then you just get to watch her kind of, fritter away her day, I guess.
And for those of you who have not been to Galaxy's Edge, I was there in December, so we're talking pre-COVID. So I'll say 3 years ago when I went, some stormtroopers walking by, and I was like, "Hey, aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper?" Ha ha ha. And they're like, "Hey, rebel, get over here!" And they put me in a corner, and they were interrogating me. And my 3-year-old son, at first was laughing, but then he started, "Is Daddy going to be okay?" That's a difference that you get to interact. This December when I was there, my son was walking around. He wasn't wearing the helmet, but he was wearing a stormtrooper costume, and they came by like, "Hey, what are you doing out here? Get back with your unit." And my son pulled out a lightsaber and extended his lightsaber like, "Okay, we've been informed you can do whatever you want." So it's fun to interact with the characters, and hopefully that experience will be back soon. Obviously the experience of this crisis will dictate that. So that is one difference, because when I was there in December, there weren't terrifically long lines to go and do the character meets, especially at Hollywood Studios. So there's Galaxy's Edge, and that's the Star Wars land. But because Disney has owned the Star Wars property for so long, they already had some Star Wars stuff set up in other parts of the park. So the character meets were actually, so you walk into the park, and if you trend towards the left, you're going to get to Galaxy's Edge. If you trend towards the right, you get to Disney Junior Land, but also the character meets are back in Disney Junior Land. So that's where you go to meet BB-8, where you meet Chewbacca. Yeah. And so those meets, the lines were never that long for me. But one thing we did is we would go October, we would go December, and so we were never in high season, right? I hear Disney in July, it's as hot as the surface of the sun, and everybody else on the planet is there. So we regularly go out of season, and my work is flexible enough, my wife's work is flexible enough, and my kids as teachers have been flexible enough. So we would not be able to report on what it's like at high season, but I can tell you in low season, those character meets are not that busy. But let's talk about Galaxy's Edge for a second, because it's the new thing and it's awesome. We'll talk a little bit about Star Tours, and then we'll talk about one thing that they've removed from Hollywood Studios at the very end. So first, Galaxy's Edge, of course, announced 2015 or 16, started construction 2017. I was actually there in 2017. I thought that's when they finished construction, and I got there and I was like, oh no. They haven't even started yet. I didn't even hear hammers, and so now it's finally finished, and I don't know about you, but I thought it looked terrific. As far as the look of the place, it felt like you were walking into one of the Star Wars planets. What was your initial response? Yeah,
the authenticity right there. Everything I thought about Star Wars, from the fact that the future, it's there's a lot of sci-fi. The future always looks very polished and clean and all of that. And of course, the Empire is very polished and clean, and they represented that well there too. But for the most part, when you're in cantinas and seeming like third world planets in this sort of way, where there's a mix of technology and poverty and usefulness of that technology, not just this is something that gets used constantly, so it's going to have oil slicks all over it, and stains and wear and tear, rust and things like that. Very authentic, even though obviously this thing was made only a few years ago. They gave it a distressed look, like you say with furniture. You could distress a chair or something. Yeah, everything from outfits and uniforms to the halls that are the lines to the rides, of course, which were very rapid to go through. So I was, constantly videoing it because I wanted to kind of capture that experience so I could take it home with me. And yes, you feel authentically like you're in a hangar, a dock, where they might park the Millennium Falcon, or inside a Death Star, or the Storm, or the Star Destroyer. Now, I'm not a guy who gets emotional, and that didn't happen to me when I went to Galaxy's Edge. But there are people who have talked about visceral, or like walking in and seeing the Millennium Falcon full size, kind of tearing up a little bit, like moved by the experience. And I really wanted to be moved, so I just told my friends I teared up, but I didn't. That's a big lie. Okay. But I didn't know. Did you have a visceral? I had a visceral. Something happened inside of me that was magical. I didn't tear up, but it was wonderful. When you saw the Millennium Falcon, anything? Yes. Any emotional feelings? No tears, but it was breathtaking. It was one of those things when you walk up to it, you just feel like you were there. You just feel, and I've seen pictures of it, don't do it justice.
No.
Until you actually experience it for yourself and actually see, which I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but it sure seemed like there was condensation even dripping from it at times. Maybe it's because it's Florida and it rains all the time and there's always just little pockets of water.
And you said it was about 195 degrees while you were there, so
insanely hot, and wearing a mask on top of that,
Yep.
and not being able to breathe. And so yeah, you're just finding yourself just a couple of times just get back to the park, right? I just need to breathe a few times. In fact, we welcomed the rain at times to cool us off, but then the humidity.
Well, I'm actually wearing this T-shirt because when I went in December, we got there and immediately poured. It rained the whole time. We were soaked head to toe, and my mom, who was there, is kind of helping us keep the kids reined in. She's like, "I'm going to buy you a T-shirt for Christmas." I said, "That's fine." So she bought me this T-shirt to wear around the park that day because we'd gotten soaked. So yes, it rains in Florida. The park's in Florida, so get ready.
Just count on it.
Let's talk about Smuggler's Run. And one thing I'll say, when you start on the ride Smuggler's Run, you take off from... So you've been spending time in the city that the park represents, and that's where you take off from in the Smuggler's Run. So their attention to detail is very good.
Yes.
That, if it's night outside, it's night in the city as you're taking off. It's daytime in the city as you're taking off. And so... not only do you get a great view of the city standing there and just, soaking it all in, but when the Millennium Falcon takes off in the ride for the Smuggler's Run, you actually go over the city and get it's a CGI view of it, but it's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, standing in line, the experience of standing in line. I was there were some crowds. Rise of the Resistance had just opened, which had pulled a lot of people into Galaxy's Edge, and so there were just a lot of people in line. In line, they have these QR codes where you can scan and play a game. Now, I don't necessarily invest a lot in my phone, so my phone wasn't great, and the line was moving pretty good, just because it was not a busy day at the park. So I was missing the QR code game, but it looked like it had been a lot of fun. Obviously, you said the line moved quick enough that you didn't do the QR code.
Didn't even do that, and honestly, the experience of going through that line, since it was moving quite fast, some of the cues and seeing impulse engines, I guess, that were firing up, and you hear voiceovers of mechanics working in there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that you just kind of had to stop and wait for, whereas if you were in line and not separated by the 6-foot distance markers that they had, everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
You might have had the chance to catch that and maybe even loop a couple of times. But obviously when we got to Hondo, that was the point where it was like, stop, we gotta watch this. His
Mm-hmm.
little routine that he has up there, and informing you what you're going to be doing. And I just thought, that animatronic, that theatrical,
Mm-hmm.
entertainment that you're getting while you're in line, they just kept it entertaining. They just kept it moving, and that experience was something beyond most theme parks will give you.
So you come in alongside the Millennium Falcon and you're walking up a ramp kind of slowly, and like you said, well, first of all, there's all this gear lying around. There's blasters. My son who's 6 is like, "Can we get one of those blasters?" I'm like, "No, buddy, that's a prop." And
Yeah.
Honestly, if we were to find one at a store, it'd be Disney World expensive.
Right.
But so you walk up this ramp and you're next to the Millennium Falcon, so you're getting different angles. Like you get over and are looking down at the Falcon at some point, and the attention to detail on the spaceship, I was mesmerized with. But like you said, the detail on the props lying around in line, the engines you're going by that fire up and go down, and the voice of the mechanics. Like they went through a lot of trouble.
Yes.
They put some Disney money on this thing.
And the timing of all that, it doesn't just happen kind of randomly. I'm sure it's all triggered so that in a normal line, you would get to experience that, without interruption. But yeah, with that case, it kind of goes back to when I was younger. Kings Island, when they were Paramount's Kings Island. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And the Outer Limits Flight of Fear.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I just did Flight of Fear a year ago.
Recently, yeah.
They haven't updated any of it.
It's all the same.
Same video.
Yeah.
The screens are still old. No, they took out the tube TVs and replaced it with flat screens. But
Okay.
those tube TVs were still there like 3 or 4 years ago. You know,
it wasn't broken.
Yeah, Cedar Fair, which bought Kings Island, owns Cedar Point. These are Ohio parks if you're watching from out of state. They bought it from Paramount, and they've not done a lot to update things.
Yeah,
So,
they just may have renamed a few things.
yeah, their investment has been what you would call light.
Right. Yeah, you don't have the Tomb Raider ride. You don't have the Top Gun ride anymore.
Right.
The Paramount properties
Yep.
that they had. But you could still call it Flight of Fear, but it was Outer Limits Flight of Fear. And of course, you're going into the Hangar 18 and seeing the alien spacecraft. And so I kind of remember that as a kid, and those kind of. That kind of came back, entertaining you while you're in line. So,
and Paramount did a great job.
They did.
And if Paramount, turned it up to 10, Disney did an 11. I mean, it was as good as Paramount could have done. Disney, they had Disney money going behind it. So you walk up the ramp, you get in. Hondo's the name of the character?
Yeah, the pirates from the Clone Wars series and Rebels series.
So I never finished Clone War and Rebels. And so just quick, give us a 2-minute background on Hondo.
Okay, Hondo is a space pirate, and in the Clone Wars series, he's kind of that gray area of being somewhat of a friend to Obi-Wan and the Jedi. At one point he has interactions with even Jedi younglings building their lightsabers. So he's always in it for himself, but he's also kind of a Jack Sparrow bumbling pirate kind of character. So of course he's always pitting people against each other, but in his world, everything's great, but he's very much a con man. And so, that character, he's essentially hiring you to do the run, the smuggle of the what is the device or the substance from Solo.
Whatever the crystals are.
The crystals,
And again, we'll put it at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
The true Star Wars fans are saying, we could make a better podcast. Well, you're welcome to. It is America. Yeah, and so you come in and they let you in, so you meet Hondo in one waiting area, and then you go into a smaller waiting area, which is the inside of the Millennium Falcon. So if you remember in episode 4, where Chewie is playing the board game...
The chess, the 4D chess, the holographic chess.
The holographic chess. Like, you're in that room. Like, they have the seats, they have the chessboard, and... And you are given some cards. So let's say there's 40 people in the room, and your group is given the orange cards, another group is given yellow cards, and so the cards you can get the pilot card, you can get the gunner card, or you can get the engineer card. I went on it 3 times because there were no lines, so I actually sat in each one of those seats. And so first of all, when I went into that main space, another place where I had a visceral reaction, where any person with human emotions would have had tears, I just had a moment like, wow, I'm inside the Millennium Falcon. Like, I was taking video and sending it to my best friend, and it looked incredible.
Yeah.
And so then from there, your group lines up at different doors. So like, our group might go to this door, another group might go to, but when you go through that door, you are walking into the cockpit, and it's all themed out, and it looks exactly like the walk into the cockpit that you would have seen in Solo, or you would have seen episode 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But once you get into the cockpit, I mean, it is just gorgeous in there.
Yes.
Like the cockpit, another place where a normal human being should have teared up. Of course, I didn't.
Sure.
But the low rumble of engines in there, and when you're in hot South Florida, and these 2 rooms are air conditioning, there's just a sense of relief. Like, oh my gosh, we have made it. So tell me, what were your initial feelings on the cockpit?
Well, I was there with my son Eli, and both of us are completely geeking out about this experience. We really did want to stick around in that rec room, if you will, a little longer because
to take it in.
Yeah, to take it in. But they actually, again, it was moving fast, so we were moving through that very quickly. Though we did kind of have experience with that on the Disney Cruise Line, because they had the kids area set up as a Star Wars Millennium Falcon scene. So I did get to actually sit in the 4D chess, or what are the holographic chess seats in there. They don't have the game or anything, but to be able to get a few pictures in the Millennium Falcon, and they even had a cockpit ride of some sorts, very watered down version. Going into this was the real deal. The seats, being able to sit there with my son, and we're both pilots. We did just the pilot.
So explain to them, how the pilot seats work.
The pilot seats, of course, you have your pilot, co-pilot, and I'm not sure if with COVID if they were doing more than 2 in a group, or because you probably had did you just have 2 in your group?
Or? 2, 4, 6.
Right. Okay.
And so they would make groups of 4. They make groups of 6. Like,
right.
For example, my first group 4 went in. My second group 6 went in, and one gal chickened out and said, "I'm not doing this. I'm getting out." So it ended up being a group of 5.
Okay, so we were only 2. That was it. So it was just the 2 of us. We're piloting this thing with. I'll tell my son years later, it's like, you were a terrible pilot.
My daughter, so this pilot...
The left and right,
this person goes up and down.
Right.
And my daughter just pulled it down and started crying. Like, he said, you got to move the thing or you're going to get us killed.
Right. And so you ran into things and you physically felt it.
Oh, yeah.
Which was amazing. And even Hondo's telling you, it's like, you see those rings? Fly through them! You fool! Fly through them! And then you were, at one point shooting the missiles and, just feeling what it was like to feel the weapons actually going off. So yeah.
Well, if you sit the next seat back, you know how all the lights light up, or all the
consoles,
the buttons. So the gunner hits a button to shoot. So when there's something to shoot, the gunners are actually doing the shooting. And then the third row back, there are a bunch of gauges and stuff. And when they light up, you're supposed to hit them as the engineer. So you're like rerouting power and stuff.
Gotcha.
So it's a collaborative experience, which
wow,
I mean, just the computing power it must take to make that thing operate. Just wow, bravo.
Right.
Bravo. But I sat in each chair. I sat as a pilot once. I sat in as a gunner once, and I sat as a engineer once. And when you get to push the thing forward to go into hyperspace, it was all terrific.
Yeah, that was us, and I've even told people that when it comes back to the original 77 Star Wars, that visual effect of the star field flying at you was a minor effect for the visual effects people that put that together. Of course, the big shots of the miniature, the models, to make them look like they're huge Star Destroyers. That opening shot, of course, to our original Star Wars, blowing people away. But having George Lucas and the ILM people sitting in the screenings and seeing the audience reaction to just the hyperspace effect. And there I was living it, and they were surprised how people reacted to that, with the stars flying at you like that. And so, back in 77, that was still a real monster effect to see that. And so I was there experiencing it with my son, and it's just like, woohoo, we got away with our crime. Oh no, so we're smugglers now, I guess.
Well, in the game, you're supposed to smuggle the crystals, and avoid damaging the ship. And based on that, there's a certain dollar amount. Like you actually score points,
right,
and then are rated by Hondo on how many points you scored. And for some reason, I was just never in a crew that did very well.
We weren't either. Yeah.
Okay, you didn't do very well.
No.
Glad to hear it wasn't just us.
Yeah.
So I've yet to hear a report from somebody whose team did well. So maybe it's just set where you do poorly. But
maybe you can put your score in the comment section below. Please do.
Would love to hear your score in the comment section.
Yeah.
So that was Smuggler's Run, and it was terrific. Now, when I'd gotten there, here's what we won't do. We won't talk about how to sign in on Rise of the Resistance. There are a lot of blogs because there's a math to it. Like the week I was there, you had to get on the park at 6, sign in, you can go home and catch a couple hours before the park actually opened.
Yeah.
Your experience was a little different. So
yes.
don't get into the weeds, but just give us like a flyover of how you signed in.
Very basically, 10 o'clock a.m. and 2 o'clock are the only times that are open for Rise of the Resistance entering the virtual queue. And so you're right there at 9:59 refreshing to get your group into a spot for Rise of the Resistance. And as quickly as I could refresh, and they told you the trick is turn off Wi-Fi, turn off Bluetooth, just cellular data alone, because there's people who will actually throw fake, I don't know what's out there, requests or somethings to mess up your phone, actually, to get themselves a better seat. So we got number 51 for the day, and even then it was 10 o'clock when we got in the queue, 3 o'clock before we rode the ride, actually. So that was like, okay, I'm glad I even have a spot, because they're also slowing things down because they're sanitizing everything. So a lot of rides were doing that. It's like, please give us a few minutes. We've got to sanitize all the surfaces on the ride. And so you wait in line a little longer, which for the most part was no big deal because they were moving so quickly. So that was keeping Rides of the Resistance from going faster, because I think he even gave us an estimated time of 2 hours, and that quickly ballooned to, well, whatever that is, so it was...
Now, I know originally I asked you for
5 hours.
No spoilers, but go ahead and lay them on me. What was the ride like?
Okay.
What was the experience of the ride?
You want the spoilers, okay.
I don't want the spoilers, but I do want the spoilers.
Okay.
There's a love-hate thing going on here.
Well, I tell you what I'll do. I'll give you kind of the very overview of my reaction to it, and then I tell you what, everyone, if you want to stick around to the end of this episode, I'll give you the real spoilers and footage from it, because I was able to record with using my camera on a gimbal, and got the whole thing actually on film, so I can show it to you and bring it to you. Hopefully that doesn't diminish your experience, but I'll tell you this much.
Kathleen Kennedy, we are in no way financially connected to one another, so when you sue him for putting this on YouTube, I just want you to know that I've never met this man.
I don't even know where we are, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
we are on the planet Xanadu, and copyright laws don't extend there. So,
well, I tell you this much: the Rise of the Resistance, I was spoiler free going in myself.
Yeah.
My wife not so much. She wanted to know what it was going to be like, so she.
Is spoiler free the way to do it?
I think so.
Okay. Well, give me the overview of the experience.
The overview experience was that it's partially ride and partially walk through, partially run through, because it's a cinematic experience of you being the rebels or resistance in this time, because it's of course during the time of the sequel trilogy. So you have the actual actors in screens and in holographic form. Daisy Ridley, Oscar Isaacs.
Wow.
We have them in either, and we even have the voice, of Kylo and of General Hux and all of them speaking to you in transports and in communications over the ride and the whole experience, getting you from A to B to C to D and all of that, and your story is that you're kidnapped by and questioned or interrogated by the First Order, and of course you're to tell them nothing, to which my daughter, when I said, tell them nothing, she said, nothing! In fact, one of the stormtroopers that when we were arrested, she comes out of the transport holding her hands up, and he said, it's a little late for that. So you are just, when you open the doors and you find yourself in a specific environment, it takes your breath away. You're absolutely in their Star Destroyer, and you're seeing space in their dock just like it would be in real life. And I'm just saying, how did I even end up here? Where is this stored in this park? Am I underground? Have they literally transported me somewhere? So you're very disoriented because you're not even sure which way you're going, left, right, up, and down. At times you're in turbo lifts being lifted. At times you're being ejected out into an escape pod. I mean, you're all over the place through this experience. And so it's a little disorienting in that way, but that experience takes you along a journey of actually being in a Star Wars adventure, and you're just saying, I'm living the authentic thing here.
I don't want to go on forever and ever, but I do want to say that I haven't heard anybody talk about it lately. But 6 months ago, all the rage was that Disney was creating these hotels that when you go in, you go into a changing room and you put on Star Wars costume clothing, and it's like it would be like a 48-hour, 36-hour whodunit experience.
Okay.
And so you go into this hotel, everybody's in character, everything is themed. There's no windows on the hotel, they're all screens made to look like star fields. And it is like an interactive, like 36-hour. I don't.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, and there's a place where you go and you can ride the Smuggler's Run while at the hotel.
Really? Okay.
And so they're building one in Anaheim. They're building one in Orlando.
Oh, wow.
And so, I don't know if COVID meant that they had to pause or COVID meant that they had more of that resource called time to work on it. But apparently there's a fully immersive hotel experience for Star Wars being built at both parks. And so it sounds like Rise of the Resistance is just kind of right up that alley, huh?
It sounds like it, actually, because it is
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the characters that you meet along the way as they're shuffling you through, whether they're Resistance members who are saying, come here, get on the shuttlecraft and all that. The First Order's after us. And then when you're actually, interrogated by the First Order, them being in character, talking about you being a Resistance spy or, rebel scum and things like that. And one thing Disney will do that, this is definitely for the children's sake, you will not find the stormtroopers actually pointing their weapons at you. That doesn't mean that they don't blast at you when your back is turned to them at times. That was a very authentic experience because you do literally see the pyrotechnics going off around you and above you and beside you, and I was just like, there's a few things that I could tell, okay, I see how they did that effect, I see how they did that one. I have no idea how they did some of those effects.
So while Kings Island is playing checkers, Disney is playing chess.
Yes.
So Rise of the Resistance, worth the price of admission, is what you're saying?
Absolutely. And if it was with Hollywood Studios, we didn't get to experience as much because, of course, the Star Wars experience was the big reason my family went there because we're all big Star Wars fans. We did get to go to the Toy Story rides, and that was great, too.
Now, you said you didn't do Star Tours.
We did not, yeah.
I've had a couple of friends go and not do Star Tours. Every time I've been there, the line at Star Tours has been like 4, 5, 10 minutes sometimes. Now, I have a history with Star Tours. Star Tours opened 1991.
Really?
And I went the day it opened in 1991.
Just as a wee lad. Wow.
Yeah, I was like 9, 10 years old. And it was a terrific ride then. They have updated it since, and it is still a terrific ride. And so, like I said, when you come into the park and you're going left towards Galaxy's Edge, before you get there, there's the base from Endor is right here, as well as a AT-AT walker. And at the base of Endor, basically all day, little kids are coming out and fighting with Kylo Ren. Like they're training for the Jedi experience. So like if you get to the park early, probably not happening right now during COVID, but during typical seasons, you have to get to the park early. You get your kids signed in, and they go through the Jedi Training Academy, and they're trained to do some lightsaber fighting. There's probably a lot of videos of it online. It is, now I'll tell you, that's the one where I tear up. That's the one where I get the lump in my throat. Like, it is so cute to watch these kids play. It is so moving, like the storyline they put in. It is just so, it is so Star Wars. And I don't know if that makes any sense to our listeners, but like, it is just so Star Wars. I was emotionally moved at that point. But right next to that AT-AT walker, you walk into Star Tours, which is a terrific ride. They regularly update the ride, so it's not what it was in 1991. It's even better, and it can take a lot of people really quickly, so the line moves. It's a 3D experience. I don't know how you feel about 3D experiences. I have a positive experience with the 3D stuff. So let me recommend you Star Tours. The one thing you missed, that if you haven't been to it, that you're going to have missed forever, is on the main drag in Hollywood Studios. They had set up a podium or a stage where they did kind of a bit of a pyrotechnic, cinematic experience thing. And I was very moved by that experience with the music and the stormtroopers marching through. Captain Phasma kind of leads you through that as far as like driving the storyline of it. You know, a guy comes out dressed as Darth Maul and does some two-sworded, fencing type stuff. Like, obviously an actor they've hired for his acrobatic abilities, because the guy moves. And they would do it several times throughout the day. Apparently they've removed that. Even before COVID, they were planning to remove that, which makes sense. It looked like a temporary podium had been put up there, and then it was so popular it was hard to find an excuse to remove it. But now that they have the permanent fixture that is Galaxy's Edge, they kind of have their permission to move it. So that's unfortunate that you had to miss that. It's unfortunate you didn't get to do the character meets, because those are terrific. I'm super jealous you got to do the Rise of the Resistance.
It was incredible. And now, did you get the chance to either do the droid building or the lightsaber
I
shops?
didn't, because I remember that it was like, when you come out of Star Tours, you could buy the $14 lightsaber, or you could spend $36 to build your own plastic lightsaber. And then they have these really nice lightsabers you can build, but it's $200.
Yes.
And you could say, that's too expensive. Who would buy it? Well, I tell you, there's a waiting list. Like, it's really hard to get in to spend $200. Like, they have people begging to give them their money.
And right now, unfortunately, the droid shop is open. The lightsaber shop is closed during COVID.
Really?
I wanted to build a lightsaber. I was willing to shill out.
You were willing to eat red beans and rice for a month to get yourself a lightsaber.
But we did take our two boys, and they built their droids. So we got an R2. They didn't want to go custom. They wanted to build an R2 and a BB-8. So, and what was cool is when they got to do that experience and even speak to the builders that are helping you put it all together and programming your droids and giving it personality and all that. And the first thing you want to do is we'll get it on the floor and play with it. Well, that's a no-no. They want you to get your droids to your I forget what they called it, your spire, because they're in character.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I even remember talking to somebody there about my van, and they're talking about that. Is that some sort of land transport vehicle? And I was, you're in character. Okay, well, that's cute.
You're so committed.
Yes. Yes, you've earned your pay for the day, definitely.
Well done.
Yes. But what was cool is we got to take that home with us, and that's something that the kids will play with, and when they get it out of my hands, because I'm playing with the droids and the cool BB-8 that's just rolling and keeps the head unit right on the top magnetically. Just incredible engineering to put that. Now BB-8, if he gets a low battery, that tends to sway one way or the other. He tends to roll and then just keep rolling. So it's really well built, well put together. It's not this cheap plastic something toy that, like you said, the cheap lightsabers, or you can get your $200 one. So this, I forget what they ended up being. It's per droid how it works out, but it was definitely something we wanted to do for our boys. We had the girls get some other stuff in the princess shops and all that too in Magic Kingdom. But for our boys, we knew that this would be something that was very unique to be able to take home a droid from that workshop. And it's cool because they have it set up with conveyors over the top of your head with droid parts all through, and K2SO from Rogue One in kind of a cage and a holding area there. So
my best friend went to Galaxy's Edge. She said they rode one thing and then spent just hours just kind of sitting there like awe-inspired. They built a droid. They didn't do much, and they felt like it was worth every dollar.
Yeah,
and so
very much.
For us, worth the money. Hey, if you had a negative experience, if you went and you're like, that was not worth it, let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear the critiques. I'm a total fanboy. Like, they had my money. They had my money, right?
Commander 9, please report back to ITS cockpit.
Incoming transmission from Ray. BB-8, is everyone assembled? Good. Shouldn't you be in flight prep? Recruits, thank you for joining the cause. A covert resistance team led by...
Recruits. Well, no time to waste. Let's get you on your way to the general. Stand clear. Deck doors opening now.
Wait.
Oh my gosh! Oh my!
Deck is in motion. Recruits Crossing to transport.
Initiate pre-flight sequence on deck 3 for Picard. Affirmative. Deck 3, you are clear for launch.
Squad, we're rolling up.
Paramount personnel, this is your...
Whoa, Eli! Eli! Two.
I just want to be sure. All recruits must be on board now. Transport is away in 30 seconds. Yes, check the hyperdrive also.
Transport takeoff in 20 seconds.
Ellie, Eli, come here.
Engines are on. Red 2, that's
Right here, guys.
Blue 5 standing by.
Right here.
affirmative. Hyperdrive systems normal. Main reactor. Are you sure? Engage repulsors and hold on, recruits. More ships. Launch. I am Lieutenant Beck. As you heard from Ray, I have been tasked with getting you to Vakara.
Red 2, Blue 5, keep tight now. Let's get ready to make that jump to light speed on my mark. I'm working it. Then I think, huh?
Black Leader, we're picking up an unusual signal. Are you spotting anything?
Yeah, I see it. We'll check it out. BB-8, what do you got?
There appear to be a number of small craft heading our way. Raise the shields.
We got company! First order TIE fighters! Reroute! Reroute! Red 2, Blue 5, we got a gear bound so transport can make the jump! They're all over us! I'm hit!
We got threat 2, more incoming. Blue 5 taking evasive action.
Try to shake him, Blue!
I'm trying,
We lost Blue 5! I'm gonna try to jump out of the way!
Copy that. Get us clear so we can make the jump.
Be ready, one first time!
Where are all those TIE fighters coming from? Star Destroyers.
Get out of there!
We can't. We're caught in a tractor beam. It's pulling us in.
I'll get some friends to make this a fair fight! Don't worry, I'll come back for you! Stay strong!
Is there anything we can do, Nina? No, the tractor beam will be too strong.
Cargo vessel TR-141, identify yourselves and prepare to be boarded.
This is TR-141. We are a civilian vessel. By whose authority are we being detained?
By the authority of the First Order, resistance scum. Now bring down your shields and prepare to be boarded.
They'll want the location of our secret base. Tell them nothing. The future of the Resistance is at stake. I have a bad feeling about this. Stand back from those doors.
Resistance sympathizers, you've been caught and your ship is now property of the First Order. Mishap the ship, remove yourselves immediately. Mishap, get out of the ship.
Resistance supporter. It's a little too late for that. Let's go.
This is really scary. This is scary, Mommy. Oh my, that TIE fighter.
Ellie. Eli. Eli.
Yes, General.
Enemies of the First Order, we will soon snuff out your meager resistance. You chose the wrong side, and now you will pay. The Resistance prisoners.
You have what I want. You know the location of the secret base, and I will take it from you.
We'll need it on the bridge.
Keep the prisoners here. I will return to finish this personally.
Blue, Eli, blue.
Your seatbelts will buckle from left to right, and we'll only go left to right. All gears should be stored at.
Those droids are programmed to return you to Batu. Hurry and don't get caught. Lieutenant Beck will guide you.
Recruits, for your safety, stay seated with seatbelts securely fastened. Keep hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the transport and supervise your children. Whoa! It's a prisoner transfer. Did it work? Good. Now get a move on. There's a clear path to the turbo lifts at the end of the hallway. Turn right. A drone droid. You're lucky it didn't spot you. Take those turbo lifts and stay out of trouble.
Oh, look.
Hey, you're not authorized. Wait, it goes to the prisoner.
Alternate route. Who picked these two droids anyway?
Take cover, recruits. Anyone packing a blaster? Now's a good time. The escape pilot's just below us. Wait, why are you going up?
We're going up!
Down, up is bad. Up is real bad.
The Resistance will attempt to rescue the prisoners.
They have neither the resources nor the courage to engage us.
You underestimate their conviction. Raise the shields!
Shields? I see no evidence.
Now!
Sound the alarm! All personnel to their stations!
The prisoners have escaped.
How brave, but ultimately hopeless. There's nowhere to run.
Oh no!
Attention, all resistance personnel. Abandon ship. I repeat, abandon ship.
There's no escape. You will tell me the location of the secret base. And I will destroy you and the Resistance.
routes came in a little off target. Ground crews will meet you outside the wreck.
All right, nice job, recruits. Not what you signed on for, but hey, you're resistance now. I think I have that authority. Right, Beck? Where's the lieutenant? I need eyes on Beck. Line up, Scaffold's copy.
Lieutenant back here.
Beck! You're alive!
I should hope so. Great job, recruits. Thanks to your heroism, the location of the resistance base is secure. Bravo! Yes, R5, you too.